You hear me, Laura?
Sorry, guys. I had the headphones had the malfunction here. But anyways, welcome to Batter Up. Along with Ben Curse, I'm Loro Antonio. We have a great show for you tonight. I'm sorry that it was a long pause because my headphones had the opening intro song here. So sorry about that. Hang in there. We're going to get this show on the road here. So, Ben, how's it going tonight?
Doing good. Of course, this feels like pretty much a once in time. I feel like kind of forever type thing where both my teams that have done great a lot of this year, the Bruins and Celtics, had their first kind of duo loss, and it feels like forever. It feels like usually when one wins, the other loses. But tonight wasn't the case. So it was just one of those things where both came right down the wire. We couldn't get them done. I'd say it was more frustrating via the Celtics. The Bruins have been playing just on top of their game. Celtics have come up a little bit short, but they'll be fine by the end of the day. They're still in first, and we got to face the Lakers, your team, lower on Saturday. So, but I'm doing good personally, and excited to talk some baseball.
Yep, and you also know here that baseball season's just around the corner. Spring training is coming by, along with the World Baseball Classic. So on our next Batter Up episode, we will be predicting our division winners, wildcard teams, and also we'll talk about the World Baseball Classic and who wins that next month. When Batter Up, we'll have a new episode for you all and all that. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we got to talk about the Hall of Fame. Joining Fred McGriff in the Hall of Fame this year in the class of 2023 is Scott Rolen. So, Scott Rolen has been in this ballot 6 times, but he finally gets to go in. But I'll tell you, my biggest snub in this Hall of Fame class Jeff Kent should have been in, but he was more of an offensive second baseman than a defensive second baseman. I also think if you look at what Edward Lee said, Manny Ramirez, who I talked about, needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know how many more years he has of eligibility on the BBWA ballot here, but Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, they somehow have to find a way to get in, and Pete Rose, Ben. The Hall of Fame is just very, very biased.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Hall of Fame voting. Voting really kind of, you just know it's a lot of. I mean, yeah, they obviously take a lot of the polls and stuff like that at the end of the day, but it comes from at the end of the day, the votes come from you don't know who, right? It's basically from people that are just very unknown. It's all anonymous at the end of the day. at the end of the day. So, you just never know with votes. And for me personally, I thought Carlos Beltran and I would say did Todd Helton make it?
No, Todd Helton did not make it, but they were biased because he didn't even win a World Series ring with the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument for a guy like Todd Helton. I mean, as a lefty batter myself, I mean, he's a guy that I've really loved watching play from a non-Rockies perspective. So, Scott Rowland, I think, is a really good player. Of course, he's won a ring with St. Louis all time. Of course, he won a reign with the Cardinals, which of course is the place he really pretty much played his whole entire career outside of the Reds. So, congrats to him. I know there were some people that didn't think you'd be able to get in, but at the end of the day, it's all about voting of the best overall feel for the person this year. And Loro, as they say, just because you didn't get in 1 year doesn't mean you have a chance to go back and try for next year. I know that's kind of cliche. It's kind of tough for all these guys. But we'll have to see. Maybe some of the guys that got robbed have a chance to maybe put their ballot back in for next year and see if they can try to win it for next year. So congratulations to Scott Rowland. Much respect. And
also the crime dog, Fred McGriff, headlines the 2023 class. This was his time, and he should have gone in long time ago. The crime dog.
I 100% agree with that.
I remember last year you did a tribute to David Ortiz on Batter Up last year, and that was like you did this tribute because of how much he's meant to you and he's meant to Red Sox Nation. And I think that David Ortiz is like, hey, I want my brother Manny Ramirez in there next.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely did have something last year. Of course, David Ortiz will always be my favorite player, no matter what the circumstances are. And yeah, I think Manny definitely should get in. I'm a little biased as a Sox fan, but
I love Manny. Great power hitter.
I hope he gets the chance to come in and as Isaiah's drinking his thing.
Oh man, Isaiah, welcome aboard here to Batter Up here.
But yeah, Manny Ramirez definitely should get in at some point. I mean, the really good Red Sox teams from within the the 04, 05, 03, you name it. You look at that meat of that order with the Red Sox. You have David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez. Those are the great days, man. Especially with the rivalry at its best against the Yankees, where I got the chance to see David Ortiz and Manny go head to head against the Yankees a couple of times in person. And then there's no two guys better, at least for me, that I've seen in my childhood than those two guys. So, yeah, Manny, of course, the most memorable Manny for me, memory was against Francisco Rodriguez, the walk-off home run against the Angels. And it was a playoff game, and the call was perfect. It was basically when the swing was up, it was a perfection type swing. Manny essentially turns to the dugout with his hands up like this, and the Red Sox, of course, won the game. And that was obviously one of my favorite moments as Manny. Another funny moment for Manny wasn't actually playing Laura, but Isaiah, I don't know if you guys remember him going to the restroom in between innings in the monster seats, but if you don't remember it, he actually went inside the monster to, in between innings to use the bathroom and came back. But that just comes to show much of a character Manny was. Very well liked in Boston, and I would say for mostly around the MLB. So hoping that I'll get a chance to maybe get into a Hall of Fame and make it. I'll have to see about that.
Isaiah, welcome to Batter Up. I mean, what was your takeaway on this Hall of Fame class featuring Fred Crime Dog McGriff and also Scott Rowland?
I think that a lot of these writers that vote for the Hall of Fame, a lot of them should have their voting privileges stripped, and I think that they should allow a new generation of younger voters vote for the Hall of Fame. Or heck, I think they should let. Honestly, this might be probably a very divisive opinion, but I really think that they should let the fans vote for the Hall of Fame because we're the ones indulging into this sport. We're the ones, like, I know the writers get all the access, and they're the ones that study the stats and all of that stuff. But when you look at baseball and you look at the sports, we the fans are the ones that go into the games and go to the games and indulge into the sport. So I really think that to decide whether or not a player is a Hall of Famer, I think that you should just open it up to the fans to vote, because I think that the fans would be much better voters than some of these writers that just have a lot of bias out there. Like, I remember I don't remember if it was last year or the year before where a guy didn't get in, even though he should have got in because a writer and him didn't get along. Like, you can't, you can't have those type of disagreements, you know, prevent a player from being a Hall of Famer. Like, that's just honestly not right. And I think that if you allow the fans to vote, I really don't see a situation where, yeah, fans would probably, they'll probably troll, they'll probably vote for their favorite team. I mean, but you wouldn't see a situation where, like, oh my God, this guy was rude to me, this guy didn't give me an interview, affect a player from being a Hall of Famer. And I think that that was probably my biggest takeaway. But other than that, I mean, um, it's just a shame that every single time the Baseball Hall of Fame is just one player or two players get voted in, and you have many deserving players that should be considered or even voted in, not get voted in because, yeah, they took steroids, or their political views are not good. Like, you shouldn't let those type of things affect what happened on the baseball field in their careers.
All right, next up, guys, we're going to talk about some off-season moves here, but anyways, we got to talk about the trade that happened here. Luis Arraez is now a member of the Miami Marlins. He is traded there for Pablo Lopez, who is now a member of the Minnesota Twins. How I see this trade is, I think it's a win-win for both sides. The Miami Marlins got better with a left-handed bat in Luis Arraez, and I think the Twins got better rotation-wise with Pablo Lopez. Now that Lopez is now out of the Marlins, now they can build their rotation around Sandy Alcantara. I mean, Rogers didn't have a good year last year. You talk about guys like you talk about guys like Sixto Sanchez, who's going to be coming back. But Ben, I'm going to go to you in this. What is your thoughts on this move by the Twins and Marlins?
Yeah, I think that the Marlins were a team that was actively trying to trade. I know that there was a report out. I know for my Red Sox, we were trying to look at for some starting pitching, and the Marlins were a team that we were linked to having potential some options for pitching. But of course, a lot of the trade proposals that they were looking at was including Tristan Casas because one, he's one of our top prospects in our farm. Another thing is he's from Miami, so it felt like the Marlins had a really good background feel for that, and they'd be able to kind of do a switch there. But it doesn't seem like anything like that would have went into fruition. I think that the Twins got a really good pitcher. Pablo Lopez, I think, is not a one yet, but he's a really good number two. And I think he's going to keep on getting better. And I think that you look at Miami, they got a really young pitching staff core alongside Sandy Alcantara. And I think that their GM felt comfortable that you could trade for really good offense in Luis Arraez, who's a batting champ. He has a phenomenal eye discipline at the plate, and you put him with Jazz Chisholm basically at your top of your order. And for Miami, you got a really good tandem up there at the top of your order now. But yeah, pitching wise, the Miami has really good young pitching. They also have Lauro Edward Cabrera, who is a guy that I thought the Red Sox would take a look at. Of course, you mentioned Trevor Rogers. They have They have Sixto Sanchez. So they have a lot of guys. And to me personally, I think that the Marlins are still trying to look at potentially some trade partners. And for me, for the Red Sox, I know we'll kind of go through potentially our teams, what happened in the offseason. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Miami maybe ask for some teams potentially trade off some of their other pitching just because they're that deep and they're so young with them being so good at that certain time. So I thought that was a really good trade. I thought that was a really win-win for each team. I would say who won the trade, I'd probably go with probably the Marlins because I feel like the Twins maybe gave up a little bit too much. Oh no, I would say the Twins won the trade. My bad, because I thought that the Marlins maybe gave up too much prospect wise, but I would say overall it was a win-win, and congrats to both guys in their new homes.
Anyways, Isaiah, I'll go to you here. This was a win-win trade for both the Marlins and the Twins. What is your thoughts on the Twins getting Pablo Lopez, and how does this help improve the rotation of the Twins? And then for the Marlins, they're getting a decent contact hitter in Luis Arraez.
I think that this is one of the very rare 50 split win-win trades where you don't see a definitive winner. I think I agree with you guys both. Both of these two teams won the trade. I can't really set apart a actual winner because I just think both those two teams got equal value in this deal. For the Marlins, we all know they have a really, really stacked and talented rotation led by Sandy Alcantara. You got Jesus Luzardo there. You got Rogers there as well. Rogers, when he is on, he is lights out. I saw him pitch against my A's back in, I think, August, and he was dynamic. And so, I think with the right pitching coach, I think that he'll be able to turn it around. We know the Marlins, their front office is very, very talented when it comes to scouting pitchers. So we know that they're going to be loaded when it comes to pitching and young pitching for years and years to come. What Miami's front office lacks is their ability to scout offensive talent. They don't have a lot of great offensive talent, and we know their ownership is not willing to spend money. So, they were trying to get Nicholas Castellanos just last year, but they couldn't get him because Bruce Sherman refused to pay the type of contract that Nicholas Castellanos wanted. So he went to the Phillies. So I think with the Marlins, they have a great rotation. What they needed was offense, and how are they going to get offense is by trading for offense, and you're going to have to definitely trade one of many pitchers in your talented starting rotation to go get those type of offensive bats that you need to compete, and that's what the Marlins did here. And they got a really talented bat in Arraez while the rotation still remains fully intact with Alcantara, Luzardo, Rogers at the top of the rotation. As far as the Twins are concerned, I mean, they needed pitching, and they had a really talented lineup. Arraez was just a guy in what was a very, very talented lineup from top to bottom. And, when you think about this trade for the Twins perspective, yeah, they lose Arraez. They lose the batting champion. But they get Pablo Lopez, who is a very talented pitcher. And, I think the Twins have enough offensive firepower to make up for the loss of Luis Arraez. So I think both of these two teams, even though they lost great players, but they both got great players back in return. This is a 50-50 win-win trade for both teams.
It is, but Isaiah, I'm going to go to you first here. We had a trade today between the A's and the Orioles. It wasn't that big of a trade as the Orioles got Cole Irvin and Kyle Verbisky from the A's. And then you got, Isaiah, the A's get Daryl Hernandez, the Orioles number 16th ranked prospect. What is your thoughts on this trade?
You want to know my honest opinion? I probably won't be able to say it live on air, but I don't like the trade because Cole Irvin, just like Sean Murphy, had multiple years of arbitration eligible years left. I mean, he was going to be on a cheap contract for the next 2-3 years. And this is what I don't get about the A's, fellas. They always say that, they don't have money. Okay, you don't have money. So what you want is cheap talent. So why do you give up on Sean Murphy and Cole Irvin when both of those two guys have proven to be good talents for you? One leading your rotation, the other one leading your lineup. Why are you giving up on them when they have 3 years plus of rookie contract eligibility still on them? Like, that's what I really don't get about the Oakland A's. They say they want cheap talent, but yet when it comes to Sean Murphy and when it comes to Cole Irvin, who both are making like $1 million, that's it. You trade them and you don't want to keep them even though you're only paying them $1 million or less. Like, it just makes no sense whatsoever. The A's right now, when you look at the rotation, they have a lot of young pitchers, but a lot of them are unproven. And the one thing about Cole Irvin was he was proven and he could eat innings. That's why I don't like this trade one bit for the A's. Now you are going to slot in most likely. You have Paul Blackburn, you have Dalton Jeffries, you have Fujinami, who is Shohei Ohtani's best friend in Japan that you picked up on a 1-year contract. But other than that, like, I just don't really like what the A's have done when it comes to trades, because I think if you got kept Murphy, if you keep Irvin, and with the players that you added, like in Aledmys Diaz and Jace Peterson, Trevor May in the back end of the bullpen.
Oh, and you also got Jesus Aguilar.
Yeah, we also got him as well. He's a dynamic power hitter. I mean, I'm not saying this A's team would have made the playoffs, but at least this A's team would have been fun to watch. But now you have Aguilar, you have Peterson, you have Diaz, Fujinami's there. Okay, you have those guys, but if you could have kept Sean Murphy and you could have kept Irvin, then I think it would have been better for the A's. But I don't know what the A's are doing. Like, I really don't. Like, all the trades that they've made in the fire sale that they had last year, they're all turning out to be busts for the A's. Like, everybody in the Matt Olson trade, except for maybe Shea Langoliers, has all turned into a bust. I mean, Christian Pache, he was supposed to be like the star of the return. The guy is out of options, and last time I checked, he was in AAA, and he was only hitting like 214 down in AAA. And, if the A's don't keep him on the roster, well, he's going to get designated for assignment and most likely traded or released. So that's a big waste of a trade. And then the Matt Chapman trade, Kevin Smith, he's down in AAA, and he's a guy that can't hit in the big league level. So, like, you basically wasted an entire core trading all those guys, and you basically got little to nothing in return. And that's what really stings about all these trades that you made is, you talk about them wanting to prioritize young talent, prioritize cheap talent, prioritize getting prospects. All the prospects that you got in return have little to no upside whatsoever.
I'm going to go to Ben here next here. So, Ben, I'll tell you, what is your thoughts on the Cole Irvin deal to the Baltimore Orioles? And I'm telling you, the Orioles got significantly better with the rotation, but I'm going to stick with you for a little bit here. I mean, you'll give your thoughts on that Cole Irvin deal, but I have to ask you your thoughts on another thing here. What are your thoughts on your Red Sox getting Adam Duvall, Corey Kluber, and then you got Alberto Mondesi, who's probably going to be playing shortstop by the time Trevor Story returns. He thinks Trevor Story's probably going to be playing second base by the time he gets back.
Yeah, my overall thoughts is, man, it's been a wild world of an offseason for this Red Sox team. It's been confusing. There's been some bright spots. It's pretty much an offseason where I think Chaim Bloom is banking on a lot of things to go right. So let's start with the negatives. Let's start going through the bad because, man, there was a lot that I wasn't too thrilled about. So I'll start with that. Red Sox winter weekend. If you guys weren't aware, it was an absolute boo fest there. This past weekend, it was pretty much the worst that I felt. Like no other. It was pretty much the fans letting Chaim Bloom and the ownership let it have it on stage. But I thought that was it got a little crazy after a time. But Red Sox, of course, the biggest loss was Xander Bogaerts. This, of course, was a move that I thought ownership would care about. Um, you know, a lifelong player that just been so valuable, not only on the field but just in the clubhouse. And he just brings an element to this Red Sox team where he'll come on every day, he'll play his best ball, a middle of the order bat, which a lot of teams would love to have. And at the end of the day with him, the Padres kind of overpaid. Chaim Bloom and ownership basically said when they pretty much made their bigger offer, we kind of stepped out, and that was that. So I'm thankful for Xander. Like I've mentioned, I really love him, still love him. It'll feel really really weird not seeing him in Boston this year as a Red Sox, but that was one of the bigger ones. Of course, lower with JD Martinez.
Oh, what were you saying again? You're saying something about JD Martinez being
agent. Yeah, it's JD Martinez. Yeah, JD Martinez, of course, going to Dodgers. So, of course, you have from the 2018 team, everybody, Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, everybody now going the NL West. It just turned out to be, I guess, something like that. And a lot of the old Dodgers are coming to Red Sox. Justin Turner. So
that's a small world there, Ben. Like some of my former favorite Dodgers are now on your team, like Kike, Kenley, JT, who I think are going to be great assets to the team.
Yeah. So we're kind of getting like the old-fashioned Dodgers of Verdugo as well too. So, but yeah, in terms of some movies I did like. So of course Xander and JD, of course, moving on. They also DFA'd Matt Barnes. That was probably the most surprising one to me. I did not see that coming at all. I'm still really upset that Ryan Brazier's still on the roster. I don't know what type of dirt that Chaim Bloom has to Ryan Brazier, because the guy, I thought, he has his moments. And I'm not the biggest Matt Barnes guy either, but you think about it now, Ryan Brazier and Chris Sale, the only two active members on this Red Sox team from 2018 at this point, lower.
Well, I think you should have not fade Matt Barnes. He could have still been a viable option to be closer and when Kenley can't pitch, but now I think Kenley Jansen's going to be the man for the ninth inning.
Yeah, I think actually. So, and I know we'll kind of go through.
Looking at the pieces that you got in the bullpen, I mean, I think Kluber is going to be a good stabilizer. I mean, but the guy can't stay healthy.
Yeah, he's going to be in our rotation. There's actually, so as of right now, it sounds like that we're going to have a 6-man rotation. It sounds
oh my gosh, I don't like that, honestly.
It sounds like Tanner Houck at a weekend this past weekend said that he's trying out for as a starting role, which means that you have Chris Sale, of course, hopefully banking on him to be healthy, which is a very low expectation. Then you have Corey Kluber, of course, who we brought in. That was a guy that we brought into our pitching staff. I thought that was a guy that we could have had a couple years ago. He obviously has passed his best years ahead of him, but I'm happy to have him. We have Garrett Whitlock.
Don't be shocked if Jorge Alfaro makes the team out of spring training.
Yeah, we seem to be looking at a lot in terms of our catchers. We have Connor Juan, we have Reese McGuire. I thought we could have brought Vasquez back, but we didn't. I guess we had an offer for him. And
he's a twin now. Don't forget about that. But
yep,
I'm telling you, the next Hideki Matsui is here. Masata Yoshida. Masakata Yoshida. It's going to take me a while to say his name, but I'm telling you, he's the next Hideki Matsui. In a sense, like he's a great left. He did some great things over in Japan.
Yeah, I actually
Yoshida.
I was looking at this tweet as of right now. So right now in the offseason, who's into this team? We have Kenley Jansen, who I haven't mentioned yet. Kenley Jansen, of course, will be NBA closer. We finally have a closer after a couple of years where we're just going plug and play here and there. We have Yoshida. We brought in Chris Martin, who was a former Dodger, who I really, really enjoy pitching. I think he's going to be a good facet to our bullpen. We have Joey Rodriguez, who we brought in as a southpawer. We're also looking at Matt Moore, I guess, from the Texas Rangers, had a sub 2 ERA last year. Our bullpen is probably the most confident as in terms of the whole entire team. I would say the bullpen, which has been a weakness for our team for a while, is actually going to be a really good. You have Jansen, you have Schreiber, you have Martin, you pretty much could potentially bring in a guy like Matt Moore. I really like that bullpen a lot. Justin Turner, of course, is going to be kind of like our JD Martinez replacement. Justin Turner, actually lower. You're probably aware. I'm not sure you're actually aware. He had one of the highest batting average in the second half of the season last year in the Major League Baseball. Of course, this is a guy that I think that still has something left in the tank. And of course, you can use him on the field if you want to, but I think he's going to be mainly DHing for the time being. The Red Sox just after the Trevor Story news, which was a very big damper after the Xander Bogaerts situation. Alberto Mondesi, who I think probably be a platoon guy with the Royal at some point with second shortstop and second base.
Probably everyday shortstop for a Mondesi, even when Story comes back.
I don't know, because I think with his health and stuff like that, I also was reading that the Red Sox are still looking at some middle infield help. So, to me, with right now, the Red Sox aren't done. I think that if you ask me as of right now, and the Red Sox saying, "Yep, this is our team, this is it," I think that the Red Sox are also going to see if they could bring back Michael Wacha. I'm not sure why no team has signed him yet, but Michael Wacha was arguably our best pitcher last year with the Red Sox. So. And then, of course, my favorite one of the offseason outside of the Yoshida was Adam Duvall. I think Adam Duvall, because the Red Sox, of course, I take that back into my favorite move. Of course, my favorite move is extending Rafael Devers, which, if it wasn't Rafael Devers' extension, I would be losing absolutely my mind with this team if I haven't already. But yeah, Rafael Devers is set to be a Red Sox for life, which I absolutely love. But Adam Duvall, I think, is going to give us some pop because we really needed some pop after the Devers news. And Adam Duvall might not have the best average, but the guy, if he stays in the field, I think with Green Monster at Fenway Park, I think that his swing's made for there. And, with this roster and this lineup as of right now, Loro, I don't know if it might be the most intimidating lineup, but I think this is going to be a fun lineup it's going to be a really hard lineup to pitch against because I think there's guys like Yoshida, he seemed like in Japan he had a really good eye to play. Of course, you have Devers. Tristan Casas, I think, had really good glimpses of it last year as his first year with the eye. So, that's one thing about Xander and JD, were guys with great eye, play discipline. But I think that this year with the lineup, you still have guys that can do it. I just don't know about the opponent in terms of their offense, and you're going to have to do that against a really good AL East. Some guys that we lost outside of JD and Xander, of Nathan Eovaldi. He's moving on to the Texas Rangers. Matt Strom is now a Philadelphia Philly, southpaw from the Pen we had last year. Eric Hosmer, I felt like we only had him for a couple weeks, but he's now a Cub. Tommy Pham, who I didn't mind last year, is kind of a fill-in type of guy. He's on the Mets, and then Matt Barnes, of course, was DFA'd. So everything to wrap up with Loro, I would say with this Red Sox team, I would give it overall grade-wise, I'd give it probably a C. I would say it wasn't great, but I think it could have been a lot. I think it was better than I could have anticipated. I think that it's pretty much filling the roster up and just hoping that you can have a respectable type of product out there for this team, and maybe they surprise some folks out there for baseball. So I'm not hopeful that it's going to be great, but I'm also not going to be like down on them at the same point. I'm just kind of in the middle with them.
All right, next. And then you also wanted to give your thoughts on the Cole Irvin trade to the Baltimore Orioles. It tells you something that the Oakland A's are not good as usual.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Oakland A's, of course, with the Orioles, to be honest, the Orioles, I don't think it's a terrible move for them. Cole Irvin last year actually had high of 9 wins, but for an Oakland A's team, that's not horrible for last year. He was right up there with Paul Blackburn, but the Orioles, he's going to be probably their Jordan Lyles replacement because Jordan Lyles went to the Royals. If you look at the Orioles as of right now with their staff, they have Kyle Gibson, they have Cole Irvin, two guys that they added this offseason, and they still have also some guys in their staff like Spencer Watkins, Michael Barham. Of course, the three guys actually from last year's team that are going to be still in their rotation are Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells, and Kyle Bradish. So the Orioles, I think, are going to be still a really good team, really fun team still. But I do think that they're still going to be right there in the middle of the pack in terms of. I don't think they're going to be right up there at the top of the AL East, but they still should have a pretty respectable team out there.
Next up, we got to talk about this, a reunion that we kind of saw coming. But the Pittsburgh Pirates reunite with one of their own, Andrew McCutchen. He is back wearing his iconic number 22 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm telling you, was I shocked that Andrew McCutchen's back home with Pittsburgh? Not really, but I'll tell you, Ben, Andrew McCutchen, I'll tell you, he lives and breathes Pittsburgh baseball.
Yeah, I think with McCutchen, he's a guy that doesn't have a lot left in him. So I think it's just a really cool comeback story where this is probably his last year. If I had to guess, of course, he's coming back to Pittsburgh, but of course, he's not going to be the same guy he used to be in his prime. But I think with the Pirates, the Pirates, as of right now, I think that they made some moves. And McCutchen, of course, I think is going to be a really good move for them. Of course, the familiarity there, just his overall presence, I think, is really good for the Pirates fans. You still have Brian Reynolds, who, of course, was a name talked about potentially getting moved in this offseason. He could be still down the road, but I still think that they'll have him during the season, at least so far. But they also added, they got some guys like G-Man Choi, Carlos Santana. Of course, you got Brandon McCutchen. They have Brian Hayes. O'Neill Cruz, of course, is going to have a great future ahead of them. So, I mean, the Pirates might not have the great in terms of their pitching staff, but I do think that their lineup definitely could give them some wins throughout the season and for the NL Central.
Oh, yeah, but speaking of Reynolds here, we got to talk about him. Now we're on the Pirates. Do you think he's a trade deadline chip? Which I think if you look at it, he doesn't seem to be happy in Pittsburgh, but hey, I'm telling you, he's probably going to be starting the season on the Pirates. Yep. But I do expect Brian Reynolds to be a big part of the Pittsburgh Pirates. But I'll tell you, there's some guys I think that are going to be built around, like guys like O'Neill Cruz. I think he had a phenomenal season last year. I'm not worried about O'Neill Cruz and what he can do. Like, he needs improvement on defense, but his overall hitting is not really the problem. Brian Hayes is a guy that continues to get better each year.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think that with this team, they have some guys that have some really good upside. Hayes, of course. O'Neill Cruz, of course, is going to be a really good player as a stud, if not already. And Brian Reynolds, I think, Laura, I agree with you. I would not be surprised. I know that it feels like a broken record probably already, but I think that the market for Brian Reynolds is going to be more up next year because I think for him, he's going to probably play out this year, kind of see how this team is looking. And I think that the teams during the season, make it a trade package potentially for a team like Reynolds. I would not be surprised for a team like Texas. Texas, I think, would have a pretty good overall package. A team like Miami, that potentially could maybe give the Pirates some pitching because the Pirates really need some pitching help. So I think that they'll keep Reynolds for at least the time being, kind of ride it out throughout the remainder of the season. But I don't think that it necessarily means that the Reynolds is going to be there for forever, especially with the young, organization with like Pittsburgh. They don't tend to kind of keep guys around forever. It's unfortunate, but it's small market type teams. It's kind of hard. So wouldn't be surprised if they moved on from Reynolds because of the amount of talent that he has. It's just going to be the matter of when it's going to be, and I think it's probably going to be by not the end of this year. I'd probably give it at least 1 to 2 years still in Pittsburgh. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's not there throughout the remainder of his career.
What about Aroldis Chapman? He is now a member of the Kansas City Royals. The Marlins had interest in him, but I think he could be good with Kansas City. I mean, he could be a reclamation project for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too high on Chapman. But
So you're
with
saying
Chapman, I
you're
think I mean, I'm not too high on Chapman just because what he kind of did against my Red Sox. I think he's not the same guy he used to be. I think though, with the bright lights in New York, I think going to now with a team like Kansas City, I think you could just go out and pitch. He's not gonna have to worry about the media, the drama, like New York or a team like Chicago or Boston would do. So it could be a win for the Royals. I think that LaRoe, watch out for for the Royals to keep on making some moves this offseason. You still have a couple more weeks until spring training, so I think that there'll still be some teams, putting out some trade offers before the spring training hits and having their full on rosters. But two guys to watch out for the Royals, LaRoe, outside of the Chapman news for them. Watch out for Scott Barlow and watch out for Whit Merrifield. Two guys I think that will, if not for the end of the start of this season, be two guys to look out for the trade market for teams that need them because these are two guys that I think could really help a contending type team out down the road. And Scott Barlow was actually a guy for the Red Sox I would have loved to have, but I think that they're going to have to go now in the lefty pitching market for bullpen. I think that a guy like Matt Moore could give them something, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, and you also said you were very happy with Adam Duvall with the Red Sox. I still think he's a very good hitter too.
Yeah, I think he's going to bring us like the Hunter Renfroe from last year. His defense actually isn't that bad either, which I think is going to be a good thing because that way you don't have to bring in Jarren Duran for outfield. Now is absolutely a mess. I think your outfielder right now has you probably have Kike at shortstop because
Or
Story's
maybe
out.
in center field if Trevor Story comes back, and then you might have to put Duvall maybe in right or left, but Yoshida's definitely going to be in there, but Duvall might be a DH.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because that's the thing is sometimes when you have a couple of DH options, it's not the worst thing. Even probably Cassis will probably get first base throughout the year DH if they still have Bobby Dahlbeck around. So I imagine that Dahlbeck will probably split the reps still with Tristan Cassis. Yeah, I am pretty happy with the Duvall news. I really think that he can give us both offense and defense despite his below to mid average for the team. So looking forward to him.
Well, before we talk about the hottest take of the night, Dana Brown from the Braves organization, he is now the new general manager of the Houston Astros to replace James Click. I'm telling you, the Astros made a bad decision to firing James Click. But what they're getting in Dana Brown, Jim Crane stated perfectly that he is the perfect fit for the Houston Astros as their general manager.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised about this. Good for the Astros. The thing about Houston, they always really have good pooling with their prospects and really good scouting. And I think that Brown is a really good guy to be in the scouting market. And, the thing about the Astros that makes them so good for so long now is just the depth that they have throughout their farm system and just kind of what they've had via their veterans, in terms of the guys that they've had for World Series for many years. Of course, they're the defending champs now. I think that there won't be a lot of difference regarding just having a new voice in because the amount of talent that they have. Even moving on from, of course, Justin Verlander is very irreplaceable, but they have such a good, that kind of the next man up type of guys. They have guys that definitely be able to fill the role in. You look at their starting staff now. You have Valdez, you have Urquidy, you have Garcia, you have Hunter Brown, who I think could be I wouldn't say Justin Verlander 2.0, but he has the stuff to potentially have that. I want to see the guy has crazy good stuff.
Well, if you talk about the
Um,
Astros, now that
so,
Verlander already won a ring and then he won another Cy Young, I'm going to give you a name for you who I really think is going to be their ace. I think it's Framber Valdez.
yeah, I definitely agree. And also, you can't forget about Lance McCullers too. Lance
McCullers, between McCullers and Valdez, I go McCullers because Lance McCullers, when he's healthy, you know the stuff he brings. He throws a great sinker. He throws a great fastball. He's just coming off of Tommy John surgery. And I do think that when he's fully healthy, you know what type of stuff he brings. And look, I thought the Astros were going to keep Yuli Gurriel, but I'll tell you, Jose Abreu even makes this lineup even better and stronger.
Right. Yeah. It just feels like with the Astros, they never lose a beat. They even brought back a guy like Michael Brantley, who of course is a huge staple. That lineup is probably number one, if not number two in the American League East.
About McCormick, who could play really good center field. Jeremy Pena with the World Series MVP. I know he's going to have he had a great rookie year. I really am even though, Ben, I do not like the Houston Astros as a Dodger fan myself for what they did. I do like some players, but Jeremy Pena is one of my favorites on that team.
Jeremy Pena is actually a New Englander type too, so he's from Rhode Island. So, no, I agree with you, Loro. As a Sox fan, I've not liked Houston at all, but I do have respect for him. Kind of as years go by.
I like Bregman too. Alex Bregman is still a guy that can drive in runs. He's a guy that everybody likes.
Right.
But yeah, I think Jose Altuve is still overrated in my book.
I mean, the thing about Houston is, the thing happened 5-6 years ago. Of course, it'll go to them, but they've shown out as of the last couple of years that they can do it without, regardless if you hate them or not. I mean, I don't like them, but there are some times that you just kind of have to tip your cap and just kind of see what they've been doing. I mean, heck, they've been the Yankees daddies for the last couple of years, which I can't complain about because I can't take the Yankees at all. But so yeah, I mean, to be honest, the Astros still are going to be right there and getting this guy to be new in charge. I think we'll do a good job there.
Yeah, now we have to talk about the hot take of the night. Who is the early favorite in next offseason to land Shohei Ohtani? It's two West Coast teams, which I think could happen. Is it the Dodgers or is it the Padres, Ben? For me, who do I think where Shohei will play next year? Don't rule out the Mets, which I think is Steve Cohen is going to throw all the money in the bank to get Shohei. But the Padres, that's another realistic option. But the Dodgers, I would love Shohei and Dodger blue. But you, Ben, I'm having a hard time. I think he's going to play next year. Where do you think Shohei plays?
Yeah, I know that there's probably going to be almost every single team out there to get pretty much the new modern day Babe Ruth, Shohei Ohtani. It's almost like Wheel of Fortune, spinning the wheel, and every team pretty much try to spin it and see if you can land on a specific team. I mean, whoever would get him, this might not only be one of the biggest free agency moves in baseball, it could potentially be one of the biggest modern day free agency moves in sports history. I mean, this is a two-way player that I know that people have comparisons with him and Judge, and they're both great players. I don't really kind of go into that argument at all, but this is by far one of the most he is just a premier talent. This is a guy that I would like to see play in person next year. I had almost had the chance to see him play in New York if it wasn't for a rain out, which made me upset. So, but this is definitely a guy that I would love to see. As of right now, I'm going to go, and I don't want to jinx your team, Lord, but I think the Dodgers, because it's still right there in LA. You'd still have the big market type team. I think you would still feed off of it. You got the great pitching staff. Julio Urias is going to be a free agent, so maybe Shohei can kind of be like the next guy in the rotation where he can kind of keep some guys, but he could also be a huge threat in that lineup as well too. And you have Andrew Friedman as well, who would be able to probably pull up the brinks for a lot of good high prospects throughout your farm. But hear about this and hear me out on this about the Padres, right? The Padres have Manny Machado on free agency next year, and we'll have to see
He has
about
an
if he.
opt-out clause. He probably will opt out. We don't know if he's going to opt out.
Right, and also
but
that
the Padres also made some nice moves too. Aside from getting Xander Bogaerts, they got Matt Carpenter, who I kind of project he will probably play first base, so that Nelson Cruz plays a lot of DH.
Right. The Padres definitely got some moves, definitely for sure. But the biggest one that I'm looking at, because I know that the Red Sox probably wouldn't be able to do this, but I would absolutely go ballistic about it. I saw a report today from a Padres reporter that it might be tough for the Padres to be able to keep Juan Soto long term because they already have to keep paying for Xander Bogaerts. But if they moved on from if somebody was to overpay for Juan Soto after 2024, Shohei Ohtani, there could be a reason why Shohei Ohtani could potentially be interested in San Diego because you'd still be able to have Tatis. Imagine Tatis and Ohtani in that lineup, and obviously the loss of Machado and Soto would hurt big time. But you would get kind of still two guys there that, of course, two of the biggest faces of baseball to be still part of your team. And of course, it'd be huge for the Padres and Dodgers, of course, kind of going back to back. Another thing, too, Lord, to take into account for this baseball season before we probably wrap it up for tonight. One of the biggest things is the shift. We're gonna see there's gonna be no shift this year, so that'll be really exciting. Another thing, no more doubleheader 7 innings. I could not take that last year. They're finally gone back to regular baseball and doubleheaders. And then
because it's 9-inning doubleheaders now. If a game gets rained out, then you have to play 2.
Yep. And then I'm trying to remember the third thing. Maybe I'll come back to me, but
next episode we'll talk more about the whole balanced schedule and all that, which I really love the balanced schedule when the new CBA was agreed upon. I think it's because I want to see more teams play each other more often. Like there's teams I want to see play my Dodgers more often, like the Blue Jays, the Rays, or your Red Sox or the Yankees.
Yeah, of course. I think it's going to be great for baseball. Interleague play is always a great time.
I really think I kind of think that playing your divisional teams 19 times a year was kind of stupid.
Well, I think that it's just going to bring out, with the new rules and the new kind of schedule, I think it's just going to bring out just the fun. Well, I love baseball. I still think it's a fun, great game. But I think that you kind of start, keeping the rules. You have the season kind of right there. It's already kind of a long season as it is. So I think just, you kind of just got to be able to see it. I think that also too, Loro, it makes the division games just that more important because you're not going to be playing as the team as much more. So the head-to-heads are going to be crucial. I think it's going to be more crucial. So I think it's going to get the best out of teams as well.
Also, I'm going to tell you, have you watched Intentional Talk? Steven Nelson, before we call it for the night, Steven Nelson is going to be part of my Dodgers broadcast team now.
That's great. Yeah, Steven Nelson's a great guy to have.
He and Kevin Millar are great together on Intentional Talk, and I'm a proud Pacific Asian Islander, and Steven Nelson is Japanese American, and I cannot be more proud of the Dodgers breaking barriers again in hiring their first ever Asian American play-by-play announcer in the history of sports broadcasting. But I think that with Jessica Mendoza now part of my broadcast team, they got to hire a female play-by-play announcer, and I would want Melanie Newman to be one of the Dodgers announcers. She would be great.
Yeah, she's also a great treasure to have. She does a great job for the Orioles, and She's been around, I believe, for MLB as well. So
Yeah, she does
yeah,
MLB Network too, and I cannot wait to have Steven Nelson here in LA. He's from my neck of the woods. He's a Pacific Islander like myself, and I could not be more proud to have an Asian American broadcaster join the Dodgers broadcast team. I could not be more thrilled to have Steven Nelson here. I think he's a great broadcaster, and I think that Dodger fans are going to love him.
Yeah, it's going to be great, man.
So anyways, final thoughts here. So it's been a great show, but next, don't forget, Extra Point on Tuesday. We have so much to talk about. Frank Reich is the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers, and I thought that was a fantastic move. I think he will get a quarterback that I think he's going to grow and develop in Carolina, which we'll talk more on Tuesday. And I think that Frank Reich is the right fit for Carolina and what they're going to do. I mean, he's going to hire a defensive coordinator that's going to help with this defense, but it's about fixing the offensive side of the ball. Then Ben and I on Tuesday, I can't wait for you and I to be excitement of joy that Bill O'Brien is back with our New England Patriots, which I cannot wait for him to work with Mac Jones, Ben. I cannot wait for a better New England Patriots season than the one we just had last year when our offense was just a dysfunction of a mess, leading with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Those guys are probably going to get reassigned to different roles on the Patriots because Bill Belichick is going to continue to show loyalty to them. But two really great AFC conference championship games, and we will recap it for you. But Ben, I didn't think you were on this show for Extra Point Tuesday, but before we end the show here, tell us your picks for Championship Sunday.
Oh yeah, I never got the chance to. Yeah, so we're gonna do Sports Weekly this week, or are we gonna say that till next week?
We might save that till next week.
Okay. My picks for this Sunday are gonna be. I'm gonna go with the Bengals. I think that they will do it again. I think that they're more confident as a group. Kansas City, of course, I'm really, really worried about Patrick Mahomes via that injury. I don't know if he'll be 100%. Yes, he was at his presser without the boot on, and it was at practice and stuff. So, would I be shocked if Kansas City wins? Of course not. I think it will come down to, like I usually mention the Patriots, it comes down to execution, who plays the best ball, and who plays the best ball at the right time. I think that Bengals team as of right now is a hungry group. I think that they know what's ahead of them. They have a great running game. I don't think that the Chiefs' defense is going to be consistent enough to stop. I mean, heck, Jacksonville with that offense, with the amount that they were able to kind of do, they were really able to move the football at a decent pace. I thought last game. So with that Jacksonville offense, I think they're going to be doing a lot of things like they did against the Buffalo defense. But it will be a matter of if Kansas City could score points, and I think that they can. It's just going to be a matter of Mahomes' injury. For the Eagles-Niners, that's going to be another great game. I know Isaiah is going to be really, really nervous and hype about that game. Kenny, of course, in our group as well, too. Best of luck to both of those two guys, for those two teams. Coming from an outside, I'm just excited for great football this weekend. I'm going to go with the Niners. And Isaiah, you heard it here first. I'm going to have Bengals-Niners Super Bowl in a couple weeks in Arizona. I think that the Eagles with Jalen Hurts and company, I think that they're going to finally be shut down by this defense from the Niners. I think it's going to be a close game. I know that they really beat out the Giants last game, but I think that the Niners are going to be able to run the football at a good pace. They have a lot of good weapons. And I think that the Brock Purdy story continues. And I think that you're going to have the two away teams spoil the championship games, Laurel. And I'm going to go with Bengals and Niners.
I'm going to go with the home teams, the Eagles and the Chiefs, and I think Andy Reid gets to coach against his former team in the Super Bowl, which I would love to see.
Yeah, that'll be also great too. We'll have to
quick thoughts here. I'll tell you, Ben. I can't wait on Tuesday for you and I to share our excitement next week on Extra Point. I can't wait for when you and I get to share our excitement for Bill O'Brien to be back as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach of the New England Patriots. I think Mac Jones is going to enjoy it. I think he's going to be coached very, very hard. Now, Bill O'Brien is going to have to get an offensive line coach. Adrian Clem, you know him. That was Bill Belichick's first draft pick. He probably will be our offensive line coach.
Yep. I'm excited to talk about that next week for sure, Laura.
And Frank Reich being the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, which I think he's going to do great with. But now the question is, who's going to be his quarterback?
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's going to do it for Batter Up. For Ben Kurtz, this is Loro signing off for now. Ben, I can't wait to share our excitement about Bill O'Brien. We're going to have a party on Extra Point about Bill O'Brien and kind of celebrate that Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are probably not going to be no longer be involved on our offense.
Yeah, definitely, man. Can't wait.